So basically, I will address that first question that I know Patricia had, and which, as I said, is an interesting topic to discuss, and that's how does somebody go about becoming an air nanny? So basically, we have this article in place where we only briefly touched on this topic in late 2018 because we've noticed that there's an ongoing trend with people who are signing up to use the website that are deciding to transport pets via air versus ground. And they've reported earnings between I don't know, $350 for a short flight and up to 1,300, as you can see, per trip for some longer flights. Of course, this depends on a lot of factors, and I can say, going beyond this article, that being an air nanny has a couple of advantages over ground transportation, and that's first of all, as it's a very obvious one. It's efficiency. It's going to work out for all those customers that have a high sense of urgency in terms of completing their transport. If they need their pet in a day or two, and the trip is that of such distance that no ground transporter is able to accommodate such requests, then air nannies are those who are going to get the benefit of the fact that they're able to transport pets via air. So they're able to win those trips and bid on those, even by bidding on those higher than ground transporters, just because the time is of the essence on those. Then when it comes to bidding itself as well, as a ground transporter, we all know you got plenty of expenses like fuel costs, tolls, vehicle maintenance, and things of that nature. Whereas with flying the pet, the only expense that you have is time. And to be honest, and as we all know, most domestic flights within the U.S. get completed within 3 or 4 hours, which means that it's going to take you a very short period of time compared to ground transportation to move a pet from one coast to another. Now, to become, as I said, an air nanny, you do not require any additional paperwork in regards to doing this legally. If you're USDA registered and everything, you should have no issues. Then the only thing that you got to get familiar with is this, which basically airlines allow you to fly with pets in the cabin, because that's what's considered to be an air nanny. You got to be able to carry the pet with you. And I have a short list here, and I'm going to send this over to anybody who's interested in knowing more about this. It's a very short list, as I said, that only specifies the types of pets, maximum weight, and costs, and whether it allows international domestic flights. You're only interested in domestic flights because CitizenShipper operates as a US-based marketplace. I'd say that the pricing goes anywhere between $50 and $150, depending on the airline. That's what I've seen, and it's mostly convenient for dogs weighing up to like 22 pounds. And again, this depends largely on the airline. So this article is just going to give you the basics. Whereas if you go to, say, United, as a company that I noticed that, and I've heard that many air nannies are using, they have this whole section that explains you all the limitations in regards to age, what is the additional pay if you have an in-cabin pet, what is the deadline to report a pet, which health declarations do they need, if they're entering the US, or like some restrictions that are based on the aircraft itself, what should be the size of the kennels and stuff like that. So basically getting into that side of the business isn't a hard part. What I believe is a hard part about it is the following fact that we all know. Yes, the customers pay your flight, basically, or better say, Patricia asked the question, the customers pay your flight. You're basically giving them a quote and you're buying the ticket. So, say you got a flight from Los Angeles to Chicago. You can quote the customer in such a way that you cover the ticket costs, you cover the pet being on board cost, and of course you include your desired earnings, and that's the type of quote that you can provide to the customer. What I can tell you right now is that what I believe, and where I believe air nannies have a large advantage over the ground transporters are extremely long distance trips, because on ground transportation, as we all know, you got to quote the customer using some sort of an expense or profit-based rate per mile. So say you got a 3,000 mile trip and you want to rate a customer 40 or 50 cents a mile. That's going to come up to anywhere between $1,200 and $1,500, which is an expected rate where, in between which is an expected rate, which we can see that the customers are willing to accept. Maybe in sometimes there's going to be bids below $1,000 that are going to come up on those shipments and get accepted. But in most occasions on a 3,000 mile trip, you're going to see quotes that are over $1,000. That being said, in the right time of the year and with the right airline and with the right time frame, you're probably going to be able to find an air ticket that's going to be only a couple of $100s for that same trip, and you're going to be able to promise your customers that they're going to have the pet delivered the same day. So I believe that that's a huge advantage where the customers are going to be more relieved. The pet is going to be more relieved and less anxious. So that's another great sort of feature compared to ground transportation on long distance trips. And you're going to be able probably to harness a much higher earning for a single day of work than compared to ground transportation.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to interrupt with also one really great tool that will help you find these flights, and it will also look for flights that are cheaper. In this regard, it's called skip lagged. So if you put in a round trip, and maybe I could share screen.
Yeah, feel free to.
Let me do that real quick. Oh, Lazar, I don't know if you saw the note, but I could mute people as they come
No,
in.
that's fine. Yeah, I did. It's fine.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Just give me one quick second. But this tool is really great in regards to setting up those round trips and for the software itself to help you find the great ones. Okay. Oh, I think I got muted. Okay. I'm going to share my screen. Let me know if you can hear me. Okay, so right here, skip lagged, just wanted to show you what it would look like. And you have access to round trip or one way. What it does is it finds really, really cheap flights from hidden cities. This doesn't mean that you have longer layovers or anything like that. It just means that it finds the cheapest ones, as you can tell from what they have right here. But again, just like a normal site, you'd put in the information in here, and then I'll just give you an example. Because it is a little tricky after this. So it gives you, okay, so from Portland to Las Vegas, $64. And as you can see, when it goes up and when it goes down. So this is a great saving tool. And of course, this would be with Spirit. But as you can see, it's a one-way, no stops, and it finds those really, really cheap ones.
Right. Now that being said, there's one big issue that I think air nannies encounter from time to time is the fact that they're not, first of all, able to stack their shipments, because that's sort of impossible since the airlines have strict restrictions. I don't know, maybe some airlines would allow you maybe to have 2 carry-on pets, but it's going to be very hard to find 2 shipments that you can pick up on the same airport and just deliver them to another airport in the country. Then another limitation is the fact that you're probably not going to be able to book a direct return trip. So what I've seen some air nannies do is they combine their efforts with ground transportation to come up with a way to come back. What they do is they book a great flight. As I said, they book it with a great price, and then sometimes they basically come into a situation where they're able to rent a vehicle on the airport and use it to do some ground transportation to come back home. And we got one couple that did this and that is still doing this with very high success. So, if you guys are considering this, the first advice that I can give you is basically search for the airlines and search for their limitations and for their best practices and rules in regards to having carry-on pets, and try to create a round trip if possible, or just try to do some math and see whether you are able to
be prof.
Okay. Are there any questions about this, Patricia?
Yep, I got one from Debbie. She sent one directly to me. It says, what about the medical certificates on pets? Will they want service animal registration?
Probably so. I would assume, again, this goes down to specific airline rules. There are airlines that are not going to accept every type of pet. They're not going to accept every breed, every dog breed either. Whoever wants to do this in a higher frequency and wants to try to become an air nanny, the first stop that I would recommend to everybody is just going through a couple of the major airlines in the US that are on the list of those who do accept pets. I can tell you, like from the list that I've shared my screen with, that those are like the major ones: Delta, United, Southwestern. Like most of them accept pets now. As I said, they all have certain limitations in regards to the weight, size, breed, and of course type of certification, whether the pet is a service animal or not. So first stop, talk with the airlines, call their customer service or read their website, and try to learn more about it that way. Again, I'd say that the majority of the people on this call are in our group. We got a couple of air nannies on Facebook in that group as well. I highly encourage you to ask that question and start a discussion on this topic. I know for a fact that there are like 2 or 3 people in the group that are air nannies that have done this before. So I'm really hoping that they will be open towards helping you guys out in that sense, by answering some of those questions. As for your question, do you have to sign up somewhere for this, Patricia? I would say, in regards to our platform, no. Like, you're already signed up as a transporter, so we do not have a dedicated landing page or web page or marketplace for air nannies that's separate from what you guys are regularly using for ground transportation. So in that sense, everything's the same. You're just quoting the customer and letting them know that you are going to, in fact, fly their pet for them. And as you all know, as I've mentioned a million times before, the dates on our site are negotiable. So what I would do as well, like after you get familiar with the airline rules, say a couple of airlines that that are willing to accept a certain type of breed or pet, you see a shipment that fits that narrative, you go to Skiplagged or any other website that you want to use to search for flights. You find the best possible flight that's close to the customer's preferred dates and try to negotiate dates so that they fit the schedule that fits the best pricing. In regards to letting the customers that you're air nannies, you can literally use any resource available. You can, some people label that in their profile name. So instead of using their first name, you got this option of, and let me share my screen just for all of those who just want to be creative and maybe use a different kind of name instead of their own personal name. Give me 1 second just so that I can share my profile.
And Lazar, while you do that, I was going to ask another question. What about if you want to do both? Is that something that you should decide when you're placing the bid, or is that something you should decide beforehand?
Well, I mean, when you say doing both, you mean being a ground and air transporter?
Correct.
What I would do is, as I said, this depends a lot on. First of all, we know that you can do ground transportation anywhere, whereas with flying, you got to be sure that the customer is or the shipment is listed nearby an airport, and that the delivery is listed nearby another airport, because you don't want to come into a situation where you're bidding on a shipment where the pickup is 100 miles away from the nearest airport and delivery is 200 miles away from the nearest large airport. So to me, this depends largely on the pickup and the delivery location. Like that. That's the first factor where I would make my decision on. Then the second factor is the pricing. You wanna be in a situation, in my opinion, to be able to create a profit for a full flight round trip that's going to be larger than what you can make as a ground transporter. So as I said, you had a great example right there, going from Portland to Las Vegas. It's going to cost you a lot more to go from Portland to Las Vegas than $64 with your car. So there are certain situations where where you see that shipment listed is close to the airports, when you see that flying pays off substantially compared to driving for a full round trip, and when you see that the customer needs this done urgently, those are a couple of factors that I see that need to line up. That's where I think air nannies have a large advantage. As I said, let me just share my screen for a second. There are certain ways that you can let the customer know that you're an air nanny. So this is my profile. So as you can see, it's not built up, to its full extent. So first place where I can do it is my experience tab. So I can open up my experience tab by explaining that I'm an air nanny, that I fly pets, and if you're doing both, you can label both. Second place is here. Look, so instead of using my own my own name, I can go ahead and edit my profile right here. And I can use this field, which is a business name, doing business as, and say, I don't know, Lazar's Air Nanny Service. And click update. And then I go home and I click to my profile, and there you go. So I guess, this is a great way for a customer to know this already. And of course, your introduction message. So any message that you send out to the customer for those trips that you feel are going to pay off more substantially, if those are the trips that you want to fly instead of drive, let them know that you're planning to fly out their pet. So those are the best probable places that you can leverage to explain to the customer that you're actually meaning to fly out their pet.